So, according to a CNBC article, a survey found that 63% of workers are unable to afford a $500 emergency expense. And I used to be terrible at saving money. Every time I had money, I would spend it. But in the last couple of years, I have learned how important and stress relieving it is to have a cushion and to just be able to occasionally splurge on something without having to wait for a paycheck or start saving is really nice. As someone that has struggled to save, I really wanted to share some of my mindset and practical tips for saving money. And obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I just really like talking about money. I feel like there's so much to learn, and I've begun viewing it as like a tool that helps me, invest in myself, my education, my hobbies, and you can outsource work if you run a business. If you don't have a lot of time, it just opens a lot of opportunities. If you find any of these tips helpful, please be sure to like this video, and if you have any tips that have helped you save money, feel free to comment them down below. So on to the tips. The first mindset tip is to ask yourself why you're saving. Having a clear goal can be very helpful. A personal example is that I love traveling and dining out. Those are my biggest expenses, and if I'm tempted to buy like an expensive piece of clothing, I can think to myself, I could buy this shirt for $50, or I could save this $50 and spend it on a day when I'm having fun in Japan. Just like comparing in your head like what you could be using your money for really helps. And if you are trying to build an emergency fund, I feel like honestly fear is a good tactic. Imagine something, okay, don't like scare yourself, but like kind of scare yourself, Imagine a worst case scenario. What would you do if you lost your job, if everything just kind of like hit the fan? What would you do? I say this because I feel like a lot of people don't consider that. They don't think like, oh, the worst thing can happen, but it's really important to set yourself up for success and make sure that you're good to go if you were to like unfortunately lose your job or get into an accident that prevented you from working. I'm not trying to scare you, just being real. Yeah. So the second practical tip is to pay yourself first. According to Parkinson's law, expenses will always rise to income. So if you have $1,000 in your bank from your paycheck, you will likely spend that $1,000. But if you immediately put away 30%, now you have $700 to spend. This has helped me fight lifestyle inflation. This has helped me so much. I would highly recommend doing this, and yeah. So when you get paid, immediately put away a percentage of that income and you will not spend it. So the third practical tip is to use saving buckets. My bank has an option of creating saving buckets, and this has really helped me save for multiple things at once, so I remember what each account is for and I don't see like, oh, I have $1,000 saved up, woo! Instead, I see that I have all these saving goals that I haven't reached, and this prevents me from using any of the money. The fourth practical tip is to use a separate bank account. So I have a completely separate bank account that I use to save my money, and this doesn't have a debit card or a credit card attached to it. It doesn't even have a physical bank attached to it. It's just online, and it feels like it doesn't exist. And I think this is also a mindset tip because it's like out of sight, out of mind. You're not always seeing that account, that amount. When you're like looking at your checking account, it's not just like right there you have all this money, because I feel like people can get like excited and be like, oh, I've saved so much, so like let's go spend it. For me, actually, it takes 3 to 5 business days to withdraw this money, which has helped me so many times prevent impulse purchases. I don't know why I never thought of this earlier, but it's a very great savings tactic. Oh, and also I guess tip number 5 is to use a high yield savings account. If you live in the US, take advantage of the high interest rates. In 2023, I made enough money to buy a laptop, a MacBook, with the interest that I made off my savings account, which is crazy. You're getting paid to save your money, which is insane. So the 6th tip is to pay off your credit card as soon as possible. I like to use my credit card because I do eat out a lot and I get great rewards for it, but to make sure that I'm not overspending because of the incentives, sometimes what I'll do is pay as I use it. So, I will leave a balance for when the statement closes or whatever, but like sometimes to ensure that I'm not just like treating my credit card as this like endless endless money, like sometimes I will use it and literally like pay it off right away, or by the end of the week I'll like pay off X amount of money. And yeah, I just think it really helps to also see your checking balance go down, so you're not, because I've definitely in the past been like, oh, I'll worry about paying that off later, and it's like at the end of the month, your balance is kind of high. So yeah, I highly recommend doing that, and it has helped me a ton. The 7th tip is to not use your credit card if it's a problem. I feel like there's this idea that you have to have a credit card because it like improves your credit score or whatever. And I've also heard, like, this might be a hot take and it's kind of unrelated, but I've heard some people will literally take out loans just because it will improve their credit score. So they will literally pay the interest on that loan just to have a high credit score, which, you know, I get the desire to have a high credit score, but I just don't know why you would like spend more money. It's like paying, or I don't know, maybe that's a hot take. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't claim to know anything. I just don't do extra things that cost you more money because you're like trying to, you know what, never mind. I hope you know what I was trying to say. The 8th tip is to remove temptation. So an example is I have turned the Starbucks app notifications on my phone off because I would get notifications every day that made me want to go to Starbucks. So like things like that. Don't go on TikTok if it's making you buy things. Like I have never bought anything that I've seen off TikTok, and I feel like a lot of people buy so much because they see it off the app from like the TikTok store or stuff. And again, I'm not like bashing it, but yeah, just if you have a problem with buying things, don't put yourself in a position to like want them, if that makes sense. The 9th tip is to tell people you're saving. A lot of people waste a lot of money because they're trying to keep up with their friends, and it's nothing to be ashamed of to not be able to afford something or just want to save for something else. Your friends will understand, and if they don't, then reevaluate your friendships, because I made that another tip to like evaluate your social life if you're feeling pressured to like buy things that you can't afford to keep up with certain things, because I've just heard a lot of stories of people like not being able to save money or like keep up with their friends, and it's like people have such varying financial situations and like goals, so never feel like ashamed or like behind or anything, like any bad, just never feel bad for like having like financial goals or wanting to save and stuff. Yeah, so the 10th tip is to get a side hustle. I feel like it is easier than ever to start your own business, to make money on the side. There's so many freaking resources out there, you guys. I was perusing the internet the other day, or today. I just like realized the other day all the opportunity that exists, and if you have extra time or are passionate about something, you know, try to find creative ways to monetize it. You don't have to, because I know some people think that like once you make something into a business, it's not fun. So I understand that, but like if you are into like starting businesses and all that jazz, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just gotta be creative and resourceful. Anyway, the 12th tip is to remember that it's better to save a little than nothing at all. So there was a period where I could literally only save $10 a week, and I had forgotten I did that, or it was like $15 a week. So I set up automated withdrawals of $15 a week. I had completely forgot that I did that, but 4 months later I had $240 in a bucket. Like that's $240 that I forgot. So it's better to save a little than nothing at all, which I guess leads to a sub tip that if you're struggling to save money, set up tiny increment withdrawals, like automated withdrawals, because you would be surprised how much money that adds up over time. $5 a week, $5 a day, like it seems like a small amount, but it truly does add up, and I have done that too, and it really works. Okay, and I guess like the last tip that I wrote down was to celebrate your successes. You know, be proud of yourself for hitting your financial goals, and also don't deprive yourself of treats and enjoying your life, enjoying your money, because that causes revenge spending. So revenge spending is the urge to spend a lot of money after being denied the opportunity for a period of time. Obviously, we want to avoid this, and also just avoid being like sad and depriving ourselves of fun. So just find a balance. You know, there was also a tip I wrote about like get help if you need it, because I feel like you should always just consider that. Sometimes if you're in like deep financial troubles, obviously consider talking to a financial advisor, and also like consider that it could be a deeper problem, you know. But okay, obviously like I don't know anything about that, but I just realized like a lot of problems can have an underlying issue, you know, like binge watching Netflix, binge spending money. Like sometimes these are like deeper things, so don't be too hard on yourself, basically. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and I'm trying to think what you could comment. Like if you have any helpful tips for saving money, or maybe if you're looking forward to something this year, comment that down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye, friends.